Right. Hello,
Mhm.
good morning. We're just sitting here for a second, waiting to see if anybody pops on with us so we can pop off about next week's astrology and do a live tarot reading at the end. And today is Melanie's birthday.
Yay, it's my birthday. I am
Yay, 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 yay.
so happy it's my birthday.
I'm so happy it's your birthday too. This is the best day of the entire year for all of my life, the day of your birth.
Oh, you're so sweet.
You're my sweet baby. Yeah, and
You were
now it's
about
on record too.
6 months old when I was born.
Yes, I was 6 months. I got 6 months on you. 52 years.
You're such a senior citizen.
Yes. Oh, there's my calendar saying it's time for us to go live. So now I know that we popped on a little bit early. And so I'm still going to give just another 30
Yeah.
seconds before I start doing my spiel. But if anybody pops on and sees this right now, good morning. But I'm not seeing anybody here just yet.
No.
Boop, 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 boop,
I hope our settings are in the right way.
Yes.
Our connection is much better this morning.
Yes, we have a better connection. If y'all were watching last week, we had some connectivity problems. Every so often we have connectivity problems, but if I'm honest, we're, live in a basement.
And we're both drawing on the same Wi-Fi, so
Right. There's a lot of people in the house drawing on the same Wi-Fi. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Let me see here. I'm gonna get situated to. Hello, good morning, anyone, anyone, anyone. I'm gonna see if I can see us live on here. That would be good.
That's a good idea.
Because if not, yeah, it says we're live.
Okay, cool.
There we go. So now I can hopefully maybe look and monitor some chat on another contraption. Okay,
All right.
so welcome to Astro Insights Live Mel Rose birthday edition. Woo woo! My wife is 52. And thank you so much for joining us today, Sunday, March 30th. 2025. My name is Jennifer Rose, and this is my beautiful birthday wife, Melanie. And today we're going to talk about the astrology for the week ahead, mixed with a little bit of current events, mixed with, some recap of last week. And we do this every Sunday at 10 a.m. together. Sometimes we have special guests. And if you would like to be a special guest here on Astrology Insights Live, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, shoot us a message and we'll, talk to you. And hello.
Hello, friends. Thank you for
Hello.
joining us.
Hello. We see everyone's joining us now. So, hello again. My name is Jennifer Rose, and this is my wife, Melanie Rose, and we are going to talk about the astrology for next week.
Mhm.
Aries season with my Aries sun love over here. And I think Mel's going to start off with a little bit of a recap of next week. And around 30 to 40 minutes into the live, we will do a live tarot card reading about the energy for next week. So
Yep.
right now I'm going to turn this over to Mel and have her talk about the astrology.
Okay, so coming into this week, first I want to get us sort of up to speed. What happened last week? A lot of things happened last week. The last few weeks have been pretty busy astrology-wise, and last week was no exception. The highlights of last week: Venus and Mercury still retrograde. Venus backs up retrograde out of Aries into Pisces, and then Mercury backs up retrograde out of Mercury into Pisces. Both of them meet with Neptune at the very, 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 very end of Pisces. And then Neptune today crosses that border out of Pisces into Aries. So that's a lot of activity for the week, a lot of vibes shifting, especially in terms of our personal life with Venus and Mercury. That's your thoughts, plans, your communications, your running around, but also your values. Both of those are retrograde. So we're reflecting on that stuff, and we're maybe coming up against some stumbling blocks and seeing some themes or people return that we, thought maybe it was finished business, and then we have to go ahead and finish this business up. So that's what's happening as we come into the week. Neptune in Aries is a whole new 15-year cycle. Okay, Neptune's been in Pisces for 15 years, and it's going to go back into Pisces for a few months later this year, but then it's in Aries for the next 15 years. And so it is a whole new way of thinking creatively, of thinking about our connection to all of everything, to all of the people and the life on the planet. It is a new way of considering. What did I already say? Creativity. It's a new way of like making art. It's a new way of expressing ourselves, and it's a new way of thinking about our spirituality as well. And Neptune and Aries, that's all of those themes of spirituality and creativity and art in the sign of fire with initiative. It's about moving forward. It's about making moves. It's more active than it was before. So that's exciting. That's exciting for me. Also, just yesterday we had an eclipse, a solar eclipse in Aries, the last solar eclipse in Aries for the next 15 to 20 years. So lots of stuff happening around this eclipse. I had lots of wow realizations and understandings come about over the last couple of days, the last week or so, between those two eclipses of this first eclipse season. What about you, Jennifer? How are you perceiving this last eclipse?
This last eclipse, there was a huge buildup in this for me, and kind of what we were talking about this morning. Like even the weather kind of reflected what was going on energetically. Like our weather here in Kansas City, Missouri has been really warm, especially for the last couple of days. Like I think yesterday was 82. It was absolutely gorgeous, but a sustained at least 10 to 30 mile an hour wind, letting us know that things are constantly changing, right?
Yeah.
And as a disabled person, I have an inflammatory condition. And so my body has been responding, just all of that pressure, everything I've just felt horrible. And then there's just a release. So I feel like after the eclipse, like there's this release that I'm feeling now. So I feel tired. I feel like I want to just lounge. I haven't done dishes. I haven't, I just kind of feel like that took something out of me, and now I'm really sitting back and thinking about what's happened, especially the last couple of months of,
Mhm.
especially like February, March, for some reason, like just kind of getting in tune with what has been going on there and understanding it from a different way. And I can only do that by resting. So now I'm just resting. I'm resting my
Yeah.
body, my mind.
And speaking of resting, so we come into this week with the moon in Taurus and Venus, who rules the moon, but Venus is retrograde in Pisces, and it meets up in the sky with where our North Node is. And North Node isn't a planet or an asteroid like that. It's a point where the eclipses happen. It has to do with the moon, right? So the North Node is about sort of what we are hungry for collectively, what we are seeking, and that North Node in Pisces gives me very uh, Pisces being the end of the zodiac where everything comes out in the wash. It's really like a time to process, a time to meditate, a time to reflect on what it is that we have experienced lately. And that Venus retrograde in Pisces, Venus does really well in Pisces, but retrograde, it's almost like a time to rest and heal from things that we have experienced as well. So I really think that this is a day when we collectively want to be still absorbing the pause, allowing ourselves to take a little bit of rest and time to reflect and process what we've been through, so that we can find some healing. I think you mentioned earlier that that processing experience, it isn't just about integrating your experience, it's about getting answers, right? Like when you process your experience, when you understand what you have learned, then you have some answers to questions you've had about how to move forward. So this is that time where we pause to think about where we've been, so we can be a little more prepared for where we're going.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think also we just have to be open to seeing things as they are now, like
Mhm.
that the fog has cleared. And I think a lot of people who are sitting and resting on big decisions, I think they've probably been made. I think there was something already. I've seen a few friends who have made some announcements about, yeah, my kid is going off to college. They've decided on a place to go, or they've decided on a job, or they've, like some people have been making some big decisions about their lives and taking into account new partnerships and old partnerships. And it's exciting and scary all at the same time. And I think a lot of us are still just kind of, re, re looking at the last couple of months and really just figuring out how to go forward.
Yes. So if that's, if that's the state of being that you find yourself in out there, understand, don't kick yourself for not being more active or being more progressive or making better progress at this time. Remember, Mars, our friend Mars, who helps us make progress, is in Cancer pretty much through the end of the Aries season. So we are we're still sort of sidestepping when we would like to be making forward steps. Okay. There's still like lateral progress that we need to make before we really make a full-blown forward motion. So it's okay to take your time. It's okay to stop and process and rest and even do a little escaping from time to time. The news in the world is really kind of hard to watch right now. So if you need to escape, if you just need to back up and take some time to process how you feel about it, we're all in that same position, and it's a good time to do it. So that's tomorrow, Monday, and I imagine we'll be feeling that for a couple of days. Venus is going to move off of the North Node for a little while and then come back to it pretty soon. But Tuesday, the moon will be in Taurus, and the moon is waxing now. So this is a time after that new moon with a solar eclipse on Saturday when we are starting to compile our plans for the next few weeks, what it is we would like to achieve, thinking about, imagining our futures and thinking about what our goals are coming up. And that really comes out on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when the moon will be in Gemini. And Gemini is the thinking, planning, creating sort of vibe. It's chatty, it's talkative, it wants to share information, it wants to soak up information. So yeah, that's what's coming up on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is the moon in Gemini.
So would you say it's gonna, like, do you think that it's gonna feel pretty chill? Like, I'm just saying, like, current event wise, it's still going to be, like, we're having a whole lot of protests, the Elon Musk protests, the Tesla
Mhm.
protests, like the protests against, even in certain states, against banning pride flags and all
Mhm.
sorts of things. Like, we are seeing a lot of those moving forward. Do you think that this is a time where everybody is going to take the information, from the protest of this weekend and kind of, try to figure out what's going on with them? Because Gemini is a really
Yeah.
communicative planet.
With the sun in
Right.
Aries and the moon in Gemini, it's really a fiery vibe. It's air feeds fire. And it's like that data, that chat, that information is feeding our our desire for progress, our sense of initiative, our fire, our passion to move forward. But again, Mars in Cancer, I really think that I really think it's going to be a lot of hot air and a lot of high emotions. Okay. I really think that there's much to be said right now, but not much is happening just yet. Okay, so just what I want to remind people about is, like heated conversations, heated words, things that we're passionate about when we're talking about them. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have the conversation, but understand that, that can give us a sense of urgency, and we don't have to choose to battle right now. And also, when we're feeling really hot headed, is not the time to make the choices about what we're going to do next. Okay. So let's
Right.
battle it out. Let's decide what we think about it. Let's collaborate on the ideas that we're dealing with right now so that something can come out of it in terms of a plan that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to take an action now, but it also doesn't mean that we won't be taking actions now. I just
Right.
advise that sense of urgency does not mean you have to take action at this time.
Right, right. So you were going back and you said, it's full of a lot of hot air, this Mars and Cancer. And will you remind me and the audience who has a Mars and Cancer placement?
I believe Donald Trump has a Mars and Cancer placement. We've had Mars and Cancer like since for a while. Okay. Like
Yes.
Mars has been hanging out in Cancer. All right. We had a retrograde and we're back in. We've been doing Mars and Cancer last year and this year. And boy, are we seeing it on the world stage with DJT and his crew, and
Yes.
how
Yes.
they
Yes.
are like, they want to make progress, but instead they're just sort of thrashing about and, lashing out at our friends. And, it seems really confused, and it seems often like a very emotional response, what they do. And it's all based on really the Mars and Cancer assertive whims.
Right. And this idea of being protective, right? Like, so if you claim that the United States is your family, like you've been ordained to be the leader of the United States because here I still breathe,
Mhm.
that's so to me, Mars and Cancer is also very protective. Like, it's like, oh, you
Mhm.
said something bad about my kid. You know what I mean? So now
Yeah.
I'm going to emote on you. You're getting ready to get a lashing.
Yeah. Don't you talk
Sometime.
about my mama.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
I'm the only one who can talk about my mama like that,
Right.
not you. So yeah, I see that a lot. I mean, we're still seeing this back and forth that we've been talking about for months in the courts and with the executive orders, and I just don't think that they're going to adhere to any of the judgments or the judges' rulings. I think they're going to do whatever it is that they want to do and
It
deal with the
definitely remains
consequences
to be
later. There are no
seen.
consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the moon in Gemini, and
Yeah.
going back to Mars and Cancer as well. But then on Thursday, the moon moves out of Gemini into Cancer. So the moon's going to join up with Mars at some point this week, right? And Thursday, the moon moves into Cancer. That's the moon going home. That is us being concerned about our homes, our private lives, our own personal well-being, the well-being of those people that we love and keep close. So, and also just the well-being of our home. So it's a good time to nurture yourself and the people around you. Make sure you are well hydrated. Cancer is a water sign. Make sure you are nurturing yourself, nourishing yourself with good foods. That's what moon in Cancer calls for. And then while the moon is in Cancer on Friday, the important part I want to get to is that Mars and Saturn are going to be trine to one another. And Uranus, remember, is halfway between them, cooperating with both of them. So Mars and Saturn in this sort of state of grace where we can take action. And then Uranus is there cooperating with them, saying, yes, taking action for change, taking action for a higher perspective, taking action to not see the same old stuff we've been seeing, right?
Mhm.
What do you think about that, Jennifer?
Yes, I do think that, I still see protests, and I think you and I were talking about, I'm feeling a huge environmental something. I feel like something's going to happen that brings us all together. Unfortunately, sometimes those things are, both negative and positive, but both and, if you will.
Mhm.
You understand that terminology, the both and. Um,
Yes.
Yes, but I think that there is still, just like these tiny sparks, like these little fires that have been just kind of everywhere all around. I think they're
Mhm.
going to start getting together to become a flame. And I think that process is just going to take a minute to
Mhm.
happen, but I see it. I just feel like we're kind of
Yeah.
gathering together and gathering all that information that we got from, the last week's whirlwind into something
Mhm.
a little bit more fruitful, a little bit more forward.
Right. And we see in this the potential for protests to erupt, for people to really stand up and start fighting for what they value, what they believe. And, we don't necessarily want to have to do these things. And so it could be looked at in some ways as a sort of negative thing to have to do that. But it's really positive because standing up and fighting for what you know is right, standing up and fighting for your families and your communities and your collectives, for everybody to be supported and uplifted without anybody being excluded. That is the important work that we're doing in the next 20 years. And it's the important work that we're going to start doing this year. So it's a positive thing to fight for what you love. Okay.
Right.
It's a
Talk to
positive
me.
thing to take your opportunities. Go ahead.
Tell me about, like you explained to me earlier, because it really gave me some clarity about that Pisces, Aries, that energy, like how close they are,
Mm-hmm.
when you
Oh,
were telling
okay.
me just
So
how close they are in degrees.
there's a line between Pisces and Aries. Okay, it's called the cusp. If you know about astrology, you
Okay.
probably know about cusps. And there's a line between Pisces and Aries, and it's like on one side of the line is Pisces, and on one side of the line is Aries. It's very small, just moment where planets cross that line one way or the other. And the sun has crossed that line, and the moon will cross that line eventually. And um, uh, and Mercury and Venus already crossed that line going forward, and then they crossed the line going forward into Aries, and then they went retrograde and they crossed the line going back into Pisces. And as they did that, they met Neptune right there at the very end of Pisces. They both had a conjunction there, sort of the confusion, like remembering what the fog is about, remembering what the confusion is about. And then as they backed up across Neptune, Neptune went ahead and just clicked right over into Aries. It was just this little, like star-crossed lovers, like ships in the night. They met up with Neptune in its final moments in Pisces, even, which was this very foggy, illusion-laden sort of way of being that we've had for a good 14 years now in different ways. And now Neptune is in Aries, and that fog is going to start to clear. Just like when the sun shines bright on clouds or on a fog, it starts to lift. That water evaporates higher into the sky, and we can see better. We can see more clearly.
Right. And I liked how earlier we discussed like that water. So I feel like that pressure, like that buildup that we've been feeling for these last little bits, like it's that water just kind of building up, that humidity kind of forming, that evaporation, all of those things that
Mm-hmm.
come into play for a release, for a storm, all of the proper ingredients. And now
Mm-hmm.
this water has been released into a
Yes.
basin. And now we're able to look at the water and actually see a reflection of what's going on, like really
Right.
see what's happening, what has happened, and then
Mm-hmm.
also what can happen.
Right. So as the fog lifts, the pressure comes off, right? And the
Right.
water spills down, and then we have clarity. We can see what is really there right before us. It's not up in the air like I don't know how much we're gonna get. It's like this is what we've got.
Right. Kind of like boiling pasta to me. I just saw myself take the lid off of pasta and all that. When all of that goes away and the foam, the bubbles die down and you see through the starch, you can see the noodles themselves. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, if you cook pasta enough, you can look down there and know what's done and what's not. You can stir it once and you can see the different colors in the noodles,
Mm-hmm.
so, but it takes, a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of reminder to look for that color in the noodles, right? It's not just about going in
Right.
there and stirring pasta noodles around 1,000,001 times. That doesn't make a good pasta noodle, but it is just kind of lightly moving them a little bit to see what they look like and how thick they are. You can tell that by
Mm-hmm.
seeing it. And opening up here will allow you to do that in the fog. And I say this with the Pisces moon. It's been
Mm-hmm.
rough. I've been
Yeah.
crying at shit I never thought I'd cry at lately. And now it's just like, now it feels like my fucks are out. I'm just like, oh, yes. Now
Yes.
what? I've exhaled.
Freedom after 14 years of that Neptune in your moon sign. Wow. Yeah. I can see how it would feel like just relief and like a burden is lifted or just
Yes,
pressure is lifted,
it
right?
does feel like something, a pressure, and it feels like something new, something fresher.
Yes.
The pressure than the fresher is coming
The
in.
pressure. There's the pressure
Pressure
and then there's the reaction
under
to the pressure,
pressure.
right?
Right. Okay,
I
I've
see
talked
you
enough
down there,
about that, but I
Carolinas.
really do like No more fucks to give. I'm free. Yes. But I mean, we can be responsible about not giving any fucks. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be like this negative connotation. It's just about, not allowing those things that used to hold us back. For me, it's about emotions and worried about other people's emotions and how other people's emotions have often held me back in doing the things that I want to do or saying the things that I want to say or being the person that I want to be. And that shit's out the window. Like, even just at 52 years old, I'm just now figuring out in a real way that I don't care.
Yeah.
In a real way. Like, I don't care.
Ting.
I'm getting pregnant
The
tonight.
priorities are
Go
becoming
on, man.
crystallized, right? The priorities are becoming more apparent. Like that's something I don't care about. This over here I care about.
Right. Right.
And this that I thought I cared about. These don't matter anymore. This is what I care
Absolutely.
about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. And
This is
I
what I
say, now I think we're almost at 2 months of not shopping at Walmart.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Coraline eyes, if you get pregnant tonight, you're going to have a little Libra or Scorpio baby. So just keep that in mind. I don't know how you feel about Libras and Scorpios.
Depending on what
All
your
right.
sun sign is, like, that could be a really good thing. So anyway,
Yeah.
I've digressed a lot. So I'm going to mute
So
my microphone now.
moving on from Friday, when we have this really fortunate thing develop with the Mars trine Saturn and Uranus just asking us to fight for our values and fight for change that we'd like to see. After that, we move into Saturday and the moon moves into Leo that evening. So moon in Cancer Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's attending to ourselves and our loved ones in our home. Moon in Leo is really more your time to shine, to show up, to look fabulous, to set the example, to show your leadership in different ways. And part of showing leadership is not just bossing people around, but it is, and it's not just setting an example either, but it is showing appreciation for what other people bring to the special recipe that you're cooking, right? Because we don't do anything alone. Leo, Aries, Sagittarius, these are fire signs. We're all very individualistic, but that doesn't mean that we really do anything by ourselves. Okay. We have teams, and it's good to have appreciation and gratitude for your team and for all the stuff that all the people and the people that show up for you and the stuff that goes right for you every day. That's the moon in Leo for me. And then coming up on Sunday, the moon will still be in Leo when the sun has its sextile to Jupiter, which is generally considered a pretty positive theme, very good fortune. It's like, sextile is cooperative. So it's like I have to show up, the sun, in my work, social, and civic life. Okay, I have to show up in my work, social, and civic life to receive the opportunities that Jupiter is throwing my way. Okay, because Jupiter just wants my life to grow and expand in ways that I think of as positive, in ways that help me connect with the world, and feel more supported. And so Jupiter wants that for me, and the sun's like, yes, that's your work, social, and civic life, and you have to be there. You have to show your face. So you want the opportunity, you want the good fortune, you want the thing that you're hoping for, you need to show up where it's going to be.
Well, you
And then
saying that just made me think about our karaoke exploration. We may have an opportunity to host a karaoke extravaganza, a karaoke show, and Mel can sing and I can sort of, and so it's kind of a big ask, and so it just made me think about that when you said
yeah, we're thinking about doing it maybe like once a month, going out there and
yeah,
running karaoke. Yeah.
on a trial basis.
And if we decide to do that, we will let you guys know so you know where to join us, so we can have all of our astrology minded friends hanging out and doing karaoke. And then also on Sunday, Venus develops its trine to Mars, which is going to be with us for a couple of months. Now, trine means that they're both in the same element sign. Mars is in Cancer and Venus is currently in Pisces. So Venus in Pisces, Mars in Cancer, this is very emotional. It's very intuitive. It's very much about connections and relationship. But I'm not certain that this is really all necessarily just about our romantic lives and our partnerships in that way. I really think that this has to do with like how we're partnering up with our communities and with our collectives.
I agree with that. There's already a lot of organization, but this is going to be different.
Mm-hmm. So, there is action coming around the corner. I know I've been saying this, like the time for action really is coming around the corner, but we are still in this moment. And I really think that Venus retrograde conjunct the North Node tomorrow on Monday is going to set the tone for the week, which is take your rest where you can get it. Take your joy and your pleasure and your escapism where you can get it. Take some time also to meditate, journal, and reflect, okay, on what your experience has been and how you feel about how things are going forward, because stuff is changing. You can see it. You just turn on the news or pay attention to your social media and you see the changes. You see the shift happening, okay? And we want to be embracing those changes. We want to be ready to embrace those changes because the time for action, the time to take action is really right around the corner. So take your time this week. Allow yourself some time to process and repose. Next week, Mercury goes direct at the beginning of the week. Venus goes direct at the end of the week. And that will be with a full moon in Libra next Saturday, not this Saturday. So Venus going direct on a full moon in Libra, I see justice coming down one way or the other. Okay, we're going to get some answers about some legal questions probably, and just some questions about fairness and justice in our lives.
And that sounds like a good time to do a spell.
It might be a good time.
A spell for justice.
Set up a spell for justice.
Maybe. Absolutely. I don't know. That all has me excited. And what are the dates? I guess that would be around the 12th. That's what I'm waiting on, is Venus to go. That's what Mercury and Venus both need to get on out of the retrograde so we can get some clarity and some justice and all those things that I just love, because this shit ain't going very well for me. Like what I'm reading on the news, the news that I'm reading, the news that I'm seeing, the news that I'm experiencing firsthand from TikTok and Instagram and everything, they're all different.
Yeah, the news shouldn't be that different from one place to another, but that's the world we live in today. So really, also pay attention. Speaking of Neptune coming out of Pisces and going into Aries, pay attention to the slant of what you're reading, okay? Everything you read has a slant, and it's okay. I'm slanted. Jennifer's slanted, okay? I'm slanted in a very left-leaning direction, to be honest. So it's okay to be slanted, but be aware that you're slanted and be aware of what the slant is of the news that you're listening to. So you know where people are coming from and why they say things the way that they say them, because we don't always agree on the terminology for stuff, but it's all the same stuff happening.
Right. I've been tuning in lately to AM radio talk shows, and they're mainly, Republican led, some big people, some people I've never heard of. And, I'm always amazed at how many times that I agree with what they're talking about, but then they use a word in a definition that's not the definition, like it's something twisted or something. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not how you use that word, but we'll agree on these parts. Now let's go forward. I can always find something, and it's interesting to listen to the other sides of all the arguments, because just simply the way that people are using words and the definitions of words are just ridiculous. And just changing words, erasure like of words. I mean, it's just stupid, ridiculous. America, wake up.
So moving on into this tarot card reading, we discussed this a little bit earlier, and I came up with something while you weren't looking, Jennifer. We have been doing a 2-card tarot reading that is what's going out and what's coming in, but we wanted to do something that was about sort of the reflective mode that we're in for this week. So I'm gonna do like, what are we reflecting on and what are we projecting on? How's that sound?
Ooh, reflecting and projecting.
Reflecting and projecting. So if you're ready, the first card, the card for reflecting is the Emperor.
Ooh.
So
Dun,
that's beautiful because the
da,
Emperor is the Aries card. You might see those ram's heads on the throne there. The Emperor is the Aries card. It is about initiative and expansion and power, about, using your passion and your power and your might to expand into territories that you didn't have before. And it's
Ooh.
about being in leadership, which is also about providing for people, right? Not just for yourself, but for your community and for your nation.
Oh,
Showing up for your
wow.
nation in ways that are assertive and powerful. So we're reflecting on that at this time. Okay, we're reflecting on, I think, what ways in which we might be assertive and showing up for our nation and really trying to expand the effect of our own values in the world.
Wow, the synchronicity of what's happening here, like the Greenland, I don't know what to call this, like the
Debacle.
Greenland schism. I don't know what this is, but all of this white man pissing contest over land. I mean, let's just get real about
Okay,
what
yes.
this
So
is.
there is a rise of imperialism too, right?
Yeah.
World War II was all about a rise of imperialism. You had Japan, Hirohito going after imperialism. You had Germany, Hitler going after imperialism. Stalin was about imperialism too. And
Right.
these days it's about Russian imperialism, Chinese imperialism, and now we're talking American imperialism, right? We're talking about expanding beyond our borders when we never really had considered doing that before. We have territories that have not become states yet that have been trying to become states, but we want to go expand our territories into nations that are already settled and happy with the governance that they have. So that's imperialism, and that's another thing to be reflecting on with this Emperor card.
I want to, do a throwback and a shout out to your bestie Jill, because she had one of my favorite quotes in the show that you all did, and she said, we're gonna, maybe we'll find out that the emperor,
Where's
she
the
said something
clothes?
about the emperor in the new clothes, and I don't know if
Mhm.
you understand what that means, but that means, like the emperor is prioritizing literally what he looks like or what he's wearing over the needs and over the real
Mhm.
needs of his subjects, quote
More than
unquote.
that, he's prioritizing how he thinks he looks.
Right, exactly.
How he thinks
Right,
he looks. It's just
right.
about his appearance.
It's about an
And he's
appearance of
yeah.
an appearance of already being in control, which, is really not true.
Yeah.
We're in
No.
control. We just need
Yeah.
to get our shit together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a
Okay.
pretty
So
powerful card. So what was the energy on that again? I mean,
reflection.
reflection.
Yeah.
So what were the questions we were asking from that card? What was the
Just
original
like,
question?
what are we reflecting on at this
What?
time?
Okay.
Because it's that Venus conjunct North Node in Pisces, and like having the water in the pool to stare at. Uh,
Right.
right. So we're reflecting on empire and imperialism. And we're also reflecting on our own personal power, because Aries is about the self. And the sun is in Aries, and a whole bunch of stuff going to be in Aries soon. Neptune just went into Aries. Okay, so this is very appropriate for
Mhm.
today, but it's about our own personal power, our power collectively, and how we respond to imperialism. Okay, at least in my opinion. And then for the second card, we are going into projecting. So projecting, like, what do we see going forward? What's coming up in the next few weeks, right? But also, I think sort of what do we want to put out there? What do we want to spread? All right.
Seed, love, peace, justice.
Not anymore. Gosh darn it, we're tired. I love this card. It's the I've had about enough of this.
I was gonna say, I kind of love this card for a projecting tone. Like, so, when we have been through a lot of shit, like this card shows, like when we've been doing these battles and taking on all of this stuff that we need to, I don't know, just taking on all these
Taking
things,
all these
everyday
actions.
things, or taking on
Yeah.
extra, the action that we've been doing. Um, sometimes when we get into that mood, we will project ourselves, our feelings, and everything onto others. Makes it a little bit more difficult to muddle through with that one stick.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's almost as if that person is sitting back and reflecting on everything that they've projected on,
Yes.
all of their projects too. project, project,
Uh-huh.
project.
Yes, yes, projects
Yes,
and
let's talk about
projecting.
definition of words being switched around here. Yeah. So reflecting, yes, shadow work for self-improvement. Absolutely. We're looking at that
Yeah.
that pool, that reflecting pool now that we can see. And you can see like nice,
Mm-hmm.
bright blue skies, green grass. I think there might even be flowers on that card, just that's a really springy card to me. And
Mm-hmm.
it makes me think of everybody in our neighborhood who was out raking their leaves, tending to their flowers,
Mm-hmm.
all that this weekend, all weekend long.
All that action it takes
Right,
to make things look good.
right. Right, right. So I love that a lot of people were improving upon what they had,
Mm-hmm.
just taking some time in the sun with other people. I saw all of our neighbors just kind of talking amongst themselves, and the kids were out riding bikes. It was
Mm-hmm.
really nice. And I think is standing and watching all of the people do that. I didn't have to be a part of that. I was already a part of that energy. It made me happy. I like to see that. I didn't have to have any of the conversations, but I just sat in my chair and watched it, and it made me happy to know that we're all still talking to one another kindly, that our
Yeah,
neighborhoods are still full of people who like each other, still kids playing with each other. It's just not that as gloom and doom as they want us
right.
to believe, okay? We're still
Mhm.
accepting each other out here, all
Community
right?
still exists.
Yes.
Community still exists. You've got a
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Right, right.
The other thing I like about this card is that I see prioritization. I
Mhm.
see, like, gosh, I've been doing all of this. These are all actions. These are all a little bit like trophies, for things
Right.
that you've done. You can look back on everything that you've done and you can start to say, okay, this one thing I can delegate, or this one thing I don't need to do this anymore. Like
Yes.
I've been uh, making that part of my busy making, and I don't have to be busy with that anymore. So, because when we get into from the 9 into the 10, then that's an overwhelm, and it really does call for prioritization of the tasks that you're doing, the fights that you're fighting, the things that you're trying to take on and complete in the world. So, prioritization, I think, is something we can also project out into the world, a sense of prioritizing,
Mhm.
like what it's important
What's
to do.
important?
And like you said, prioritizing community, showing up and being around the people that you live around, because that's where, like, really where it comes down. That's where the politics get real.
Right. And I wanna say this, I don't know why it's come to my mind, but I need to say it out loud. You know, there is a place in whatever is happening in this history that's happening, for everyone. Every single person, you have something to lend to,
Yes.
whether it's, taking care of yourself and making sure that you're seeing things clearly, and that that your mental health is okay, to join in the fight. Like I've told people over and over again, I've never been more astounded at myself and just so happy that I created a whole protest. Like I created a protest from my phone in my living room in less than 24 hours that tons of people showed up to, that
Hmm.
was really, really successful and necessary. And it also sparked some other protests. It was at a school, so the students protested after that, and it became a non-issue, became an issue that needed to become an issue at that time. But
Hmm.
I wanted to go and I wanted to attend and I wanted to be there in person, but I couldn't physically do that. So I did what I could
Hmm.
from my phone. And so there is a place in this for everyone. We
Yeah.
We need people. We need teachers. You know, we need everyone
Students.
in their best capacity. Yes,
Yeah.
like in their best capacity, in order to, you know, show others. You know, all of these jobs that are going away, they're going away because they're coming back into the communities. You know, so if
Mhm.
it's only the rich people that can afford to send their kids to the best of schools, fine. We're going to have some good teachers here too that want to just
Yeah.
teach and not worry about politics, and we will find a
Mhm.
place for them. They can teach 5 students at a time, which is a much better number of people than 30 or 40 or 50. You know,
Yeah.
like there are ways around all of these things that are happening that are coming down. We'll find a way to build them back up in a way that works for all of us. And we can't shy away from making that job easier for ourselves. For example, if you're a content writer and you do the same things over and over and over again, kind of like we do, and if you're worried about using ChatGPT or not to help you with that content creation, you know, make it easier on yourself. Like sometimes ChatGPT will just regurgitate what it is that you've given to them, you know, but just fix the grammar.
Yeah.
That saves a lot of time. And I know that there's, you know, just kind of discussions about AI and everything, but if the technology is
Mhm.
there and you're a single person trying to run a business online or whatever, gosh, I don't
Mhm.
know where this is coming from, but Psychic Jennifer, yeah, if this is it and you're trying to decide how to make more time for you to be more creative and not do those little bitty things, I think this is when you're
Mhm.
going to figure that out. And just know that easier doesn't mean less productive or less quality. It just
Right.
means it gives you
Right.
more time to create and think about
Mhm.
and meditate on what it is that you want to do next.
Yes, Neptune in Aries. Neptune is part of our creative manifestation. And Neptune in Aries is really, it's going to be a new way of expressing ourselves. Okay, so embrace new ways of expressing yourself. But the other thing was interesting. I got to talk to Quan Tracy Cherry the other day, and he said, you know, after we've been through Capricorn and Aquarius, like Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, he's like, it's so nice to get back to the simplicity of Aries. So I really think that part of this change in our creative life is going to be about getting back, like making things more simple, getting back to more simple forms of expression. So that's definitely that's definitely right on point, Jennifer. Thank you. And
Yes.
that concludes our tarot card reading for this week and also our uh, astrology preview. So I just want to thank everybody for being here, for joining us. I want to thank those of you who participated in the chat, for participating in the chat. I'm always so happy to see you all here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I will be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 a.m. to do astrology previews for the next couple of days each time. Yes. Anything you want to say before we wave ourselves off?
Yes, just a little bit. Happy birthday to you.
Oh,
Happy
happy
birthday to
birthday
you.
to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday, dear
birthday,
Melanie.
Melanie.
Happy birthday to you. Mwah. I love
Mwah.
you, baby. I'm so glad that you exist.
Oh, I love you too. And much love to all of
Yes.
you out there. I will
Thank you
catch
for
you in the next
watching.
video.